Hey, welcome to another concept training video. Today we're going to be talking about the value of lead follow-up. My name is Dan Harsh. I am the founder and the CEO of Concept, and I want to jump right into this. A couple things we're going to talk about today is one, we're going to talk about leads versus sales. I think you're going to find this pretty interesting. We're going to define a lead. What is a lead? What is a lead to you and your company? And then we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the lead follow-up process. We're going to spend and dive into this and spend a lot of time on that topic. That's going to be worth your while. Then we're going to provide you a lead follow-up test that you can take back into your company and see how effective your lead follow-up process is inside your own organization. And then last, we're going to talk about some other factors that could be impacting your sales. Let's jump right in. Have you ever said, or have you ever heard people say, we just need more leads? If you can put my sales reps in front of more qualified prospects, they can close. I just need to get in front of more companies. I have heard those quotes for a long time. I think we all have said that because leads are critical to our organization. We're always looking for more leads. There is a relationship between leads and sales. And I want to talk about that relationship because I think it's very important for us to understand that relationship because I think it will help us more effectively manage that process internally inside our organization. We say we need leads, but what I think we really want is sales. Let me say that again. We say we need leads, but what we want is sales. So the topic is leads, but the focus is sales. So if the focus is sales, which it is, let's face it, leads are only valuable if they turn into sales. Leads are a conduit to get to sales. So when we say we need leads, we really want sales. So if I'm sitting back today and I'm saying, I want more sales, then I think we have to ask the question, why do I need more sales? And why do I think leads is the answer to my need for more sales? There's probably several reasons why we want and need more sales. And I'm going to go over some of those with you. Number one, your sales reps may be busy managing existing accounts. They don't have time to follow up on leads. They don't have time to go generate new leads. They're busy managing existing accounts. You don't want to pull them off of that task because your accounts are very important to you. Your customers, your current customers, are providing you a steady flow of revenue, and you don't want to disrupt that. So you want your account managers, your sales reps, taking care of those accounts. So they may not have the time. Two is you may be closing a lot of your leads. In fact, you just need more leads. Your reps are very good at closing. You just need more. So when we talk about why do I need more sales, well, you may need more leads. Number three is you are generating leads, you just don't know the status of them. You don't know the status of the current leads that are being generated to determine why they're not closing. You may be generating enough leads today, but if you don't have visibility into that, if you're not tracking that, you don't know what the status is, so you don't know why you're not closing those leads. Another one, number four here, is your sales reps may not be effective at closing the leads given to them. Let's say that again. Your sales reps are not effective at closing leads. That is a tough one to talk about. Sales reps, I think, fall into two categories. There's some sales reps that are very good on the phone. They're very good at turning over new prospects, the hunt, and there's some that are very good at the close. There's the hunters, there's the farmers. And sometimes I think we put sales reps in positions because they're very knowledgeable, they're very technical, they know a lot about our company, but that doesn't mean they're effective at presenting your company, your solution. Doesn't mean they're effective sales reps. It just means they're knowledgeable, they're technical, and they know a lot about your company. Another one that may be impacting your sales is you do not have a lead follow-up process. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You don't have a process that is effectively working leads. So you're generating leads, but you're not following through with them in an effective manner that's ultimately taking them from a qualified lead to a sales-ready lead. And there could be other reasons, but I wanted to start this video out today kind of talking about there's a lot of things that impact sales. Leads is an easy place for us to focus, but leads are just a starting point. If we talk about some of those reasons that I just gave you, there's only one of those reasons that more leads will help you generate sales. Of all the reasons that I just went over, only one of those, if I give you more leads, will actually generate more sales. And that was number 2 when we said your sales reps are effective at closing leads. All the rest of them, more leads is not going to be your answer. For example, sales reps are busy managing accounts. Well, if I give them more leads, that isn't going to matter. You don't even know the status of your leads. Well, if I give you more leads, isn't going to matter. Your sales reps aren't effective at closing leads. Well, if I give you more leads, it isn't going to matter. You don't have a good lead follow-up process. If I give you more leads, it isn't going to matter. So more leads may not be your answer. I think this is starting to get a little interesting now. We're starting to set the stage of leads versus sales. Let's keep going. Let's talk about what a lead is. We talked about leads versus sales. We kind of set that stage. Now let's talk about what is a lead. As we said, there's a relationship between leads and sales. And before we get into defining that, let's set some groundwork a little bit. All sales groups need a continual flow of leads. We all want leads to come in. We all need leads to come in. The lead is the start of the sales process. And that's why we all say, hey, we need leads, we need leads. But as we talked about, what we really want is sales. We want those leads that are ready to close today. Keep in mind, the lead is only one component of sales. I'm going to repeat that. The lead is only one component of sales. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we progress through this video. Every lead generation program must start with defining a lead. Your lead definition is going to determine your lead follow-up process. So let's talk a little bit about this definition of a lead. What is your company's definition of a lead? Do you have a definition of a lead? Well, here are several definitions I have come across over the years, and I've worked with many companies through the years, many types of sales organizations, all kinds of different types of industries, all size of sales organizations, and I come across a lot of different definitions of a lead. Each of these definitions doesn't mean one is better than the other. They're just a definition. So there isn't a right or wrong. It's whatever your definition is, then dictates everything else around that. Some people, a lead is simply a company and a contact. Some people buy a list, they import that list into their CRM, and they refer to them as leads. It's just simply a company and a contact. They call that a lead. Some companies say, I got to have a company, a contact, and there's certain information I need to know about that company. It could be size of company. It could be industry they're in, could be type of products they use. Who knows what that may be. But I need a company, a contact, and there's some certain information that I need. Other people take it one step further. I need a company, I need a contact, I need specific information, and I need them to be willing to meet or talk with me. Now we're getting a little more qualified. I need to know who they are, and they need to be willing to talk with me. Next is number 4, company contact, qualified based on your defined criteria and willing to meet or talk. What do I mean by defined by your criteria? Well, we work with a lot of different types of companies, but the first thing we have to start with is, what is a lead? What am I turning over to you? What does that conversation, when I have that conversation, what are those things I have to identify before I turn it over to you? Maybe it's budget. Maybe it's decision maker. Maybe it's type of product you're using. Maybe it's buying cycle. It's buying time frame. I need to know exactly what your need is. I may have had to identify exactly what your pain is. So there's certain things that I have to define before it becomes a lead. Another one might be your company, your contact, qualified based on your criteria, has a need, willing to meet or talk. Now they have a need. You can see this just keeps building on one another, and then ultimately it gets down to company, contact, qualified based on your defined criteria, willing to talk, and ready to buy now. So you can see there's lots of definitions for a lead, and there's no universal definition. There's no standard definition. It would be interesting for you, this could be a little check, little test for you. Go back to your organization, go back to your marketing group, go back to your sales reps, go back to your sales manager, go back to your inside sales reps. Ask them to define a lead. See if everyone is on the same page. Sometimes you'll hear marketing say, well, this is a lead. You'll have sales reps say, the stuff marketing sends me, it's no good. They're not ready to buy. So there's discrepancy there. So it's important for you as an organization to make sure everybody has the same understanding of what a lead is. If you set out your lead definition to be company contact and maybe some specific information identified, those types of leads require a lot more follow-up. Those leads require more qualification, a lot more time, a lot more effort. Doesn't mean it's a bad definition. It just means if that's your definition, it requires a lot more time. If we move down into that qualification process and we move down to, I have company contact, I have specific information, I've identified other information, they're willing to talk to me, I know what their need is. Well, those are a little more qualified. And here's what's interesting about those. Those are readily found. You work with a lead generation company, we find those leads. We find those leads regularly. We find the decision maker, the company name, the contact, their email address, what their need is, what products or services they're using. We identify that. So here's something to think about as we move forward. If you're getting a lot of those leads, where are they? What is the status? Why are they not closing? That type of lead is meeting and checking a lot of your boxes. It's meeting your criteria. So what's the status of those leads? And why are your sales reps not closing them? If we drop down to the most qualified, remember the most qualified was company contact. They're qualified based on your defined criteria. They're willing to talk and they're ready to buy. These are premium leads. These are not easy to find. This is like a needle in a haystack. But you and we find them. We turn those over to your sales reps. So once again, when these leads are coming over, what's the status? Do you have visibility into those leads? If so, or if you don't, but why are your sales reps not closing those leads? So you can see there's a lot of things that impact sales. Lead follow-up is critical to turning leads into sales. So now we're really starting to set a little bit of a foundation here about lead follow-up and variables that are impacting your sales group. So we've talked about leads versus sales. We just went through and defined what a lead is, and we gave many definitions of it, and we said there's no standard definition. Now let's talk about this lead follow-up process. We said there was a relationship between leads and sales, and we've already started talking about that. But here's what we got to understand. This relationship between leads and sales, it is not a linear process. It just doesn't go straight on through. We all seen the sales funnels, the pipelines, and this is just a mimic of a one, but we got leads, sales calls, follow-up, conversion, sales, and it just kind of goes right on down through the funnel. Well, this is kind of a nice graphical image, but the real process in real life, it's not linear at all. There are a lot of things that happen inside this funnel, and it definitely isn't just a straight process. Let's look at leads. When a lead is generated, it kind of does one of three things. One, we talk to somebody, it immediately becomes disqualified. It doesn't meet our criteria. It's never going to meet our criteria. We get rid of it. Secondly is we nurture it. It meets some of our criteria, so it has to go into some bucket, some pool, so we can stay in front of it because it meets our criteria. Doesn't mean they're ready to buy today, but it does meet our criteria. May need to nurture it to identify more information or to get to or wait to the prospect is at a point where it's ready to turn over to our sales groups. Another direction that leads may go is directly to a sales rep. It meets all our criteria and it's ready to turn over to a sales rep, not because they're necessarily ready to buy, but because they're ready to talk to somebody. But once again, your lead criteria is what's going to dictate each of these flows. Where I'm going to either disqualify it, I have to nurture it, or I'm going to turn it over to a sales rep. Once I turn it over to a sales rep, then a couple things can happen. One, the sales rep takes it, and then it's going to take some defined next step because they had a good conversation. They're having maybe they're having another meeting. Maybe they're meeting with some additional people. Maybe it's going to a proposal stage. Maybe the sales rep has to put some type of a plan together, a strategy, but the sales rep is keeping it and they're moving forward. If so, what's that process and what is your visibility into what the sales reps are doing with that next step? Keep in mind, you spent money up here to generate this lead. This lead didn't just happen. It took time, it took effort. You spent money, resources. You've turned it over to a sales rep. He or she says, there's something here. I'm moving forward with it. Do you have visibility into that? Do you know what they're doing? Do you know what the status is? Do you know how many of these they're working on? Do you know if they are in fact staying on top of that? So that's one scenario. That sales rep takes it and he or she's keeping with it. The sales rep may have a conversation with that lead and deem, hey, they're not quite ready. And so they send them back to this nurture pool again. Anything that goes into this nurture pool has to involve lead follow-up. Very critical. We don't want to get rid of these leads. We don't want to not follow up with them. These leads have met some criteria that we have identified. These are potential prospects. These are potential customers. We have to get out of the mindset that just because a lead does not turn to a sale immediately doesn't mean it's a bad lead. It just means they're not ready to buy today. There are not a lot of people out there ready to buy today. The goal is working a process to find those. And as you work a process, you will uncover those, and some you have to continue to work so they can become one of those. Keep in mind, these leads, everything in here have been evaluated based on your criteria. If they're over here, it's because they don't meet your criteria. Let's get them out of here. If they're down here, it's because they meet your criteria. Well, if they meet your criteria, I want to stay in front of them. If they're over here, it's because they meet your criteria. Just because they're not ready to buy, do not throw them out and do not discard them. Let's continue on. We talked about this lead follow-up process. We said this nurture bucket, this nurture pool has to go through a lead follow-up process. And we said that process is not linear. That process from leads to sales, it's not a linear process. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's dig into that a little bit further because this is kind of the crux of this video. This lead follow-up process, it's an engine. It's an engine that works all by itself. You set it up and it's working. And this engine and this graphical image is giving you an idea of what's happening in this lead follow-up process. And if you look around this dial here, you're seeing all of the various touch points, all of the different types of activities that an effective lead follow-up process should be doing. This lead follow-up process, it should be hitting that nurture pool with emails. We should be putting follow-up calls back into this nurture pool. Keep in mind, everything that's in here is happening to your nurture pool. We're going to email them. We're going to call them. I'm going to make them aware of social posts. I'm going to send them some videos. I'm going to make them aware of blogs that I have going on. I'm going to be hitting them with multiple touch points. This lead follow-up process, I call it an engine. It's strategic. You're going to define it. You're going to set it up. It's very strategic. And then it's automated. It just happens. It goes. We're having multiple touch points. Why is that important for you to have multiple touch points? Why is it important to have multi-channel? Multiple touch points and multi-channel. We do not know exactly what topic or what avenue, medium, channel is going to get the prospect. For every prospect, it's different. And you could have 10 prospects out there. Some of them are living on LinkedIn. Some of them are living on Facebook. Some of them are living out on Google. Some of them are working off of emails that they receive. I don't know of those 10, which medium, which channel is going to be most effective. I don't even know which touch point. Is it an email? Is it a call? I don't know that. But if I have an engine that is constantly throwing those arrows out, I'm bound to increase my odds of being at the right place at the right time. Maybe a video is what's going to attract somebody. They don't want to read, but they sure do like to watch something. Maybe a blog. You got very analytical people. They like to read things. By putting multiple things in front of them, I'm increasing my odds of being at the right time. I'm taking a lead to a nurture than to a sale. If you look inside this dial, there's a couple things that I want to make mention to. One is CRM. CRM is what is driving all of this. CRM, we all know now what CRM is, but we don't all use it the way it should be used. In order for this to happen, you have to effectively have CRM. CRM then will be driving cadences. Cadences are self-defined actions, workflows that are going to happen based on certain events that you are going to define. And as those events, timelines, dates, responses happen, certain actions happen. And those are cadences. Imagine this lead follow-up process. Every day you're throwing in there, let's say, we'll keep it as a round number 10. Every day, I'm throwing 10 new people into my nurture pool, which now are getting put through my lead follow-up process. So day one now, I got 10 people that I'm hitting with all kinds of touch points. Day two, another 10 goes in there. Now there's 20. Day three, another 10 goes in there. Now there's 30. Day 4, another 10 goes in, 40. Day 5, 50. You can see it begins to compound. And sure, there's going to be some that fall out. A sales rep can't keep up with that volume. They can't. You have to have an engine. You have to have a process. It has to be automated. If you're doing lead generation every day and it's effective, you're generating leads every day. You're filling this nurture bucket up every day. This is getting input with nurture leads every day. And keep in mind, some of these are much more valuable than others. Nothing goes in this process, nothing goes in this engine unless it meets your criteria. Very important. So everything that's going on, this dial is moving around, touching leads that all meet your criteria. These are people who buy your products, your services. These are decision makers that make decisions on your products, your services. These are companies that use lots of your products, lots of your services. You want to stay on top of those. You want to be hitting those in a multiple touch, multi-channel approach, and you want it to be strategic, and you want it to happen. It has to be automated. This is very important. This is the number one sales deficiency I see in companies. Let me say that again. The lack of this engine, the lack of an effective lead follow-up process is the number one sales deficiency inside companies. It's big. It's critical. Let's continue on with this thought. At some point, this engine is going to have to kick something back out. As that dial was going around and emailing and calling and sending blogs and social posts, eventually one of those nurture leads pops up and the guy says, "Hey, I'm interested." And now it's kicking it back out to a sales rep. When it goes to a sales rep, once again, it's going to go down to some defined next step. The sales rep's keeping it. He's saying, "Hey, this is hot now. I am keeping it. I am moving forward with it. Once again, do you have a process over here that's like this process? Do you have a process on your sales rep side that I just demonstrated to you on the lead side? If no, why? Think about it. This process just kicked out a potential sales-ready lead. And you don't have a process from your sales reps to see what's going on with that? Can you see how this can be impacting your sales? So when this gets kicked back out, you see this arrow, this is demonstrating your engine kicked it back out to the sales rep. That sales rep is either keeping it themselves or they say, hey, not quite ready again. And it goes back into the process. That process, once again, kicks back up and it just starts going. And you can see how this works. It's just a continual flow of a process. It's an engine. It's a methodology to make sure that when I identify a lead, if it meets my criteria, it's gold. That is golden. I want to stay on top of that. And you have to have a lead follow-up process to do that. Let's continue on. I mentioned to you that this is the number one sales deficiency that I see inside companies. It's a deficiency because, one, many companies don't even have a process. There's nothing like this in their company at all. There's not even a manual process like this. They're just relying on the sales reps to do whatever. If they do have a process, it's probably not an effective process. It's not an enforced process. If you're a sales manager, if you're a business owner, if you're a sales executive, this is your responsibility to implement this process. It's your responsibility to enforce this process. It has to start somewhere. It has to start at the top. Secondly is maybe there's a process, but it's very one-dimensional. All we do is we just send emails to them. Every once in a while when I think about it, I send an email to them. It's not a multi-channel approach. Multi-channel process is very important today. People are all over the internet, all over social media. They're everywhere today. We got to be everywhere as well. And lastly, why it's a deficiency is because many companies have no visibility. If they don't have a process, they definitely don't have any visibility. If there's a process, but it's not an effective process, they probably do not have visibility. So think of all the potential that's happening inside this engine or could be happening, and it's not because you don't have the process. You don't have visibility. You're not enforcing it. This is a game changer for sales organizations. This is a game changer for sales structures, sales groups. What are the benefits of this? Well, we've talked about a lot of them. It improves your lead gen ROI. If you're going to outsource lead generation, you want to have this internally or turn this over to your outsource company to do this. Very expensive to spend money on lead gen and then not have a process like this to follow up on the leads. What you're looking for when you implement lead gen and do not have this process, you're looking for sales-ready leads. Very bad mistake because it's just not going to happen. Sure, you're going to get one here or there. You want to have this. If you're going to outsource this, if you're going to outsource your lead gen, make sure you have this. If you don't have it, talk to your lead gen partner and see if they can help you with this. You're going to spend the money on the lead gen. Don't you want to make sure you have something like this to get the ROI on those leads. It improves your sales pipeline. This dial is working all the time. It's constantly putting sales-ready leads into your pipeline all the time. It's automated. This is working 24/7. It increases your odds of being at the right place at the right time. And let's face it, a big part of sales is being at the right place at the right time. That's just a big part of sales. It decreases the highs and lows of sales. When you're constantly putting leads in your pipeline, eventually things start coming out. So if you experience a lot of this, it's probably because you don't have a good lead follow-up process. You may not have a good lead generation program. Ultimately, the biggest benefit of this is it increases sales. And we said, hey, I need leads. No, you want sales. You think leads is your answer. Well, leads is your answer if you're going to follow up those leads with an effective process. This increases sales. We have on our wall in our company, we have a quote that's up on the wall. And the quote says, it's not about closing the sale today. It's about building the pipeline for tomorrow. That sounds a little bit contrary to sales. It's not about closing the sale today. Every sales manager is saying, no, I need sales today. You need sales today because you do not have an effective pipeline. You're desperate for sales today because you're not spending the time and the strategy and setting up a process to feed a pipeline so you have ready sales. I'm saying it's not about closing the sale today. It's about building the pipeline for tomorrow. If you're building a pipeline for tomorrow, sales are going to take care of itself. You're constantly putting in front of your sales reps sales-ready leads. If your sales reps are effective, you're going to be closing sales. You got to get sales-ready leads in front of your prospect, and it isn't going to just happen from at the very start of the lead gen. You'll get some. They have to go through a process. This is the process. Build that pipeline, sales will happen. Let's continue on. We talked about pipelines. We talked about leads. We talked about lead process. We talked about it's not linear. You can't build sales on sales-ready leads. What do I mean by that? Don't put a lead generation program in place and rely that they're going to automatically uncover sales-ready leads, and that's what you're building your sales on. Those are few and far between. You will find some, but it's just not a good strategy to build on. You want a lead gen program that is finding those, but you want a lead gen program that is finding qualified prospects that I can then continue to build to get them to sales-ready leads. There's a process there. Lead follow-up is the hub of your engine. This, what I'm describing here, that is the hub of your sales engine. This is where it happens, right here. Continually feeding your pipeline generates regular sales. Very important to understand that. Feed the pipeline. And you can't just feed the pipeline with just the lead generation program. It has to be married with a lead follow-up process. Remember, all leads in this process have met your criteria. These are qualified. They don't come in here unless they meet your criteria. This process converts qualified leads to sales-ready leads. Very, very important. I think this is as critical as any area of your sales organization. This is key. Lastly is, as we talked about, CRM is critical to all of this. CRM sits in the middle of all of this. Couple things, and we won't stay here long, but a couple things we got to talk about regarding CRM. CRM is what gives you reporting and visibility to what's going on here. CRM is going to let you know how many leads have I generated. What's the quality of those leads? What's the status of those leads? Where are they at right now? What is my lead conversion? Where are my leads coming from? What is my best lead source? Which lead source is generating the most leads? Which lead source is closing the most leads? You want CRM to be your data validation, not your sales reps. What do I mean by that? If you ask your sales reps, hey, what's the quality of leads? Most often they're going to say, they're okay. They're really not that good. Well, of course they're going to say that. They're not going to say, oh, those leads are awesome. And then you're going to say, well, then why aren't you closing them? They're going to say, they're okay. They're not that great. You can't allow your sales reps to be the validation of leads and your lead follow-up process. You got to have CRM and data be the validation of your lead generation and your lead follow-up process. It's CRM that tracks your conversations, your emails, your follow-up steps, your next steps, documents that have been sent. You should be able to go in at any time and see what the status is or what activity has taken place on any lead that has been generated. CRM is what generates all the automation, all the cadences, manages all the campaigns, all the things that are required to cover this amount of ground as efficiently as we possibly can. Every day it completes all its tasks. It does not make mistakes. This will be the most accurate employee you have. Let's say that again. Every day it completes all its tasks, and it does not make a mistake. You're going to set this engine up. You're going to set this process up. It's automated. It's continual. It runs every day. You will make sure every one of your nurture pool leads are getting touched. You are not going to be dropping the ball. Lastly, it keeps sales on task. CRM is critical. It's just invaluable to your sales organization. Let's talk about a lead follow-up test you can do inside your organization. We've already talked about a lot of things. We've talked about leads versus sales. We've talked about what is a lead. We've talked about the lead follow-up process, and we talked about that in depth. Let's provide you a lead follow-up test for you to go inside your organization and see how effective your lead follow-up process is. Here are some simple things you can do. 1, open your CRM and pull up leads that were generated 2 months ago. Simply go into your CRM, run a report, give me all the leads that were generated 2 months ago. Then determine when was the last time those records have been touched. Is there a next step? Is there a follow-up task? Is there something scheduled to stay in front of that lead? Is that information recorded in your system? Number 4, check your sales rep's documentation. Does it meet your company's process and expectation? And number 5, do you have a lead follow-up process? Do you have a process? If you don't, do not be surprised when you don't see any of this stuff inside CRM. This is a very simple test. Can you even pull up your leads in CRM? Can you even do that? If so, is there any activity on them? Can you see everybody who's touched them, what the status is, and what the next steps are? Simple test for you to see how effective your lead follow-up process is inside your organization. We're going to start winding this up here. We've talked about leads versus sales. We've talked about what is a lead. We defined various definitions of a lead. We spent a lot of time talking about this lead follow-up process. We gave a test for you to go back and implement and test inside your organization. And keep in mind, everything we've talked about up to this point is lead follow-up, but we talked about it in terms of a sale. Everything we've talked about up to this point about leads, about lead follow-up process, about CRM, it's all about leading to a sale. Everything has to lead to a sale. Let's close with some other factors that could be impacting your sales. We talked about this relationship. We need leads, but really what we want is sales. And we talked about, why do I need more sales? One is sales reps. Two could be budget, how you're allocating your budget. Three is sales management. And four is CRM. Let's break these down. Other factors. We're going to talk, what are other factors that are impacting sales? One is your sales reps. This is very difficult for companies to discuss. I'm not sure why, but it is. Are they effective at following up on leads and talking with prospects? Before you answer that, look at bullet 2. The question isn't, are they knowledgeable? The question isn't, are they technical? The question isn't, are they trustworthy? The question is, are they effective at being in front of a prospect and following up on leads? Those are different things. I can be very knowledgeable. I can be very technical. I can be very loyal to my company. But am I good in front of a customer? Are they effective at establishing your product, your service as a viable option or a solution in front of a prospect? Would you buy from your sales reps? I'm not implying that every one of your sales reps are ineffective. I'm not implying that at all. All I'm saying is, as we address sales, we have to address sales reps. Leads aren't always just the answer. Leads are a problem. Lead follow-up is a problem. CRM is a problem. Sales reps are a problem. If I want to improve sales, I got to address all of these things. So would you buy from your sales rep? Would he or she instill enough confidence in you for you to buy from them? Remember, many customers buy from people they're comfortable with, people they like, people they trust. You spend a lot of money to generate this lead. Once that lead is generated, I got to make sure that I have my best foot forward, both in people, in process, in strategy, in technology. That's how I'm going to be effective. That's how I'm going to win over my competition. Sales reps are a big factor in impacting sales. Let's talk about budget allocation. I think this one is very interesting. What do I mean by budget allocation? Is your sales and marketing budget appropriately and effectively allocated and prioritized to all key areas? Well, what do I mean by that? Well, you have X amount of dollars you're spending. You have a budget that fits your company's ratio. It fits. But are you spending those dollars in the right places? How much are you spending on marketing? Is it enough? Is it too much? How much am I spending on lead generation? Is it enough? Is it too much? What about my lead follow-up process? Am I spending enough time there, enough money there? How about my sales reps and my ability to close leads? Am I spending enough money there? You see, I can have $100 to spend, and I use $100 hypothetically, and I could spend 90 of it all on lead generation. I'm not sure that's the most effective use of dollars. I could spend 90 of it on my sales reps. Probably not the most effective use of my dollars. There's some balance there that says, hey, I need $30 on lead gen. I need $40 on my lead follow-up process. I need $30 on my sales reps. Or I need $20 on marketing. I need $20 on lead gen. I need $30 on my lead follow-up process. You got to balance that out. And if you're not sure how to do that, then sit and talk with somebody who knows how to walk you through that process. You could increase sales without spending any more dollars. Are you even allocating time appropriately? Is your sales rep spending time managing accounts and they're supposed to go prospect for new leads? Never going to work. That was the whole reason we started Concept. Where are you allocating time? How much time are you allocating to lead gen? How much time are you allocating to lead follow-up? You can totally turn things around without spending any more money. Reallocate dollars, reallocate time. You do not need to spend more money. More money is not always the answer. I would never start with spending more money. I would start with reallocating what I have. Maybe you have one too many sales reps. There's dollars. Maybe those dollars are more effectively spent on marketing and lead generation. We got to evaluate your situation to make those decisions. There are lots of things you can do to improve sales without spending any more money. We got to reprioritize time and reprioritize budget. Let's continue on with other factors that are impacting sales. Sales management. This is a big one. And I'm just going to be very straightforward. I've been inside a lot of companies. And when I say a lot. I've been at this for 20 years just at Concept, let alone my sales career prior to Concept. This is a big area. Do you have the right sales manager? Do you have the right person at the top that is driving the things that you need to drive? Are they proactive? Are they current? Today, everything is automation. It's technology. It's strategy. It's process driven. Is your sales manager proactive? Are they current? Are they creative? How effective are they at working with marketing? Or are they also your marketing? Do they understand CRM and do they use it? If your sales manager is not using CRM, they're probably not the right person. I'm going to say that again. If your sales manager is not using CRM, they're probably not the right person. They just don't get it. You cannot be effective in sales and not have CRM be your daily Bible. Just doesn't happen. I've been using CRM for 30 years now. You don't do anything in sales without recording it in CRM. And if you have a sales manager that is not doing that, they don't see the value. If they don't see the value, that means they're not seeing the value of reporting. They're not seeing the value of visibility. They're not seeing the value of process. They're not seeing the value of staying in front of multiple people with multiple touch points, multi-channel. They're just not going to get you to where you need to go. Do they have experience managing processes? Do they have experience managing lead generation, people, content, strategy? Those are big. This position is big. You can't just take somebody who's been in your organization a long time and they've been in sales and now all of a sudden they're the sales manager. It doesn't work that way. This is big. This is another factor that can be impacting your sales. Lastly, we've spent some time talking about this. We'll close with this: CRM. Are you utilizing CRM for all of its features and benefits? Are your sales reps using CRM according to best practices? And is it working for you? This isn't a question of do you have it? This isn't a question, do your sales reps log in once in a while? No, this is a question of, is this the process that's being used every day? Are they living in it? Are you running your reports out of here? Are you going in here at any point in time and seeing real time what's going on with your sales group? We've spent a lot of time talking about CRM, but once again, we're talking about other factors that impact sales. CRM, definitely one of those. We spent a lot of time here talking about a lot of things. We've talked about leads versus sales. We've talked about what is a lead. We've talked about the lead follow-up process, a test for you to try inside your organization. And then lastly, we talked about some other factors that are impacting your sales. As we wrap this up, I think there's some key takeaways that I want to make sure you're walking away from this video. Some key takeaways I want to make sure you're walking away with. We talked about the relationship between leads and sales. We say we need leads, but what we really want is sales. Very important for you to know that. When you say, hey, I need leads, rephrase that. I need sales. I'm hoping leads is a medium to help me generate more sales. You don't need leads, you need sales. Leads is a conduit to get to sales. Little different when you look at it from that perspective. So anytime you start thinking of leads from this point forward, you have to think of leads in terms of sales. And we said it's not a linear process. There is a whole process involved to take a lead to a sale. The topic is leads. The focus is sales. We said, hey, you got to have a definition of a lead. That definition is going to qualify or determine your follow-up process. And we went through a lot of different definitions of a lead. So you got to define that lead inside your organization, and everyone has to understand what that lead definition is, and then what is your effective process then to take it from there. We spent the bulk of this video talking about the lead follow-up process. We talked about the power of it. We talked about the dynamics of it, the need for it. We talked about the vastness of it, how it's automated. We talked about how it doesn't sleep. It doesn't make mistakes. It works 24/7. We talked about how it's putting multiple touch points in front of every one of your qualified prospects. We talked about how it's putting unique messaging, because we don't know what's going to trigger that prospect to want to buy. We talked about that you have to have this process married with your lead generation program. We talked about this is one of the biggest and most critical components of your sales engine. And we also talked about that this was the biggest sales deficiency inside organizations. And lastly, we talked about some other factors that impact sales. We talked about sales reps. Do you have the right sales reps? Are they effective? These are tough decisions. I get it. But sales is the heartbeat of your company. You're going to have tough decisions. Do you have the right sales reps? Are they effective? Do you have your budget allocated correctly? Are you spending the right amount of time and dollars in the right places? Could I reorganize, restructure some things around and be more effective without spending any more money? Do I have the right sales management? Tough decisions. I get it. Sales is the heartbeat of your organization. We got to have tough decisions and tough conversations. And lastly, we talked about CRM. Do you have it? Are you using it? And are you using it the way it's supposed to be used? Are you using it for everything? Is it your daily Bible? We covered a lot of things in this video. I enjoyed putting this video together. This is the crux. This is the heartbeat of your organization. You master this, your sales are going to increase. They are. This works. Does this take effort? Well, sure, it takes effort. It takes effort when you don't have it either, because you're just always chasing your tail. You're always looking for what can close today because you need something today because you don't have a pipeline. Either way takes effort. I would rather put the effort here where I have control. I can determine what this process is in this engine. I can determine my messaging. I hope you got something out of this today. There were a lot of takeaways today. I hope you got something out of this today. We will have more videos like this. You can go out to our website, conceptltd.com. You will see more videos out there, more links to videos out there. There's other blogs out there on very similar topics that we talked about today. Hope you enjoyed this. Give us a call. Look us up. We would like to hear from you. Would love to have an opportunity to work with you. My name is Dan Harsh. I'm the founder and CEO of Concept. Thanks for tuning in today.